Well, my friends, it appears the Lost Sons of Bretonnia have finally found their way home, joining an errantry war on SFO Grimhammer against the Minions of Tzeentch. They were taken by the lady at a young age and have returned to something more than human. A magical support cav unit with serious DPS and melee, and a ton of synergy with the Uniter himself. Some of the strongest heavy cavalry in the game will be flexing their muscles here on Crusade against the forces of Chaos, and even the lowly peasants of Bretonnia's fiefdoms will be joining the party. But the barded nightmares of a hellish realm ride in opposition, and the Knights of Tzeentch will be more than happy to steal their souls as playthings for the Changeling's lair. The Everwatcher comes, a greater demon of Tzeentch, and a malevolent presence in the warp, here on the mortal plane in all of its glory, and a cabal of tortured cultists at its beck and call. Chaos and the Grail, Lost Sons and Broken Sons, the Lady and the Eagle. Let's see whose knights can come out on top. So, the Lost Sons are a very unique unit for Bretonnia. Newly introduced in SFO, they are a hero choice that comes in units of 5. Very good melee stats, Grail Vitality for some HP regen, and 4 spells. Faw's Protection, Light of Battle, Harmonic Convergence, and Earthblood, alongside a couple combat steroid buffs and ward save buffs as well. Very well rounded, very expensive, and best used in a support role. They are not ethereal, despite those glowy Ghostbuster mounts. Right next to them is the Green Knight, Gilles Le Breton. We'll be riding alongside them with Alberic de Bordeleaux, and he is a straight-up beast in SFO Grimhammer. Huge charge bonus, 500 weapon strength, Strider, Stalk, and Perfect Vigor. He's got some new map-wide bonuses on super long cooldowns that can help turn a cav fight, and he's getting that 8 bonus first large from Alberic, so they can do some mean things together when they go up against cav and monsters. Pretty powerful goon squad. Now for the infantry, nothing super special, just dirty little peasants with maces for a cheap AP option. They will get face rolled by Chaos Warriors anyway, as is their lot in life, but they might be able to do a little bit of damage with that extra AP. And Peasant Longbowmen provide a bit longer range than your average Peasant Bowman unit. 195 certainly ain't bad, but their kit isn't quite as good as the English, so not sure we'll be seeing them reenact Agincourt anytime soon. Holding down the right flank are the glorious, the preternatural, the superhuman Grail Knights. Next step in Sapien evolution, they will wreck you and your mom and still make it home for bedtime at 8 o'clock. Don't let that goody-goody act fool you. They are vicious, and so are their questing knight brethren. AP, bonus versus infantry, born and bred to open up Chaos Forged armor like a tin can. Now, across the desert, march the Minions of Tzeentch. The Cabal is out in force, and Chaos Knights are probably the biggest threat on the field. Terrifying in SFO, they've got a beefy stat line blessed by the gods themselves, and get big bonuses to their stamina and strength when their HP is above 50%. So, 2 halberds, a bunch of marauders, some Chaos Warriors with great weapons, 2 Chaos Knights, and striding there in the back, looking real freaky, Big Bird Sarthorael himself, a Sesame Street demon from your very worst nightmares. He's got some Tzeentchy magic in SFO, and quite a few more spells at his disposal compared to vanilla. Blinds enemies when he attacks in melee, has the Soul Leech of Tzeentch effect, which debuffs and damages enemies in an AoE, a healing spell as he works the flesh change on his compatriots, and Final Transmutation, which is way cooler than what it is in vanilla. It slows enemies progressively until the very last few seconds of the spell, where it will actually root an enemy in place, just like if you were, I don't know, actually being turned into a metal statue. Also has some Lore of Shadow spells thrown in for good measure. We'll be seeing Pit of Shades in this one. So very different tactical outlooks between these two factions, generally speaking, but here, honestly, a pretty similar game plan. Both sides have heavy cav, both sides have a ton of infantry, both sides have spellcasters that try to impose their will through heals and buffs, but nothing screams Bretonnia quite like a knightly charge for the lady right up the center, marauders on the business end of that freight train, and Green Knight will also relieve some Kurgans of their heads with that Spectral Blade. Lost Son's gonna emulate that as well with the Duke of Bordeleaux, and right off the start, these meat shields gonna take a lot of damage, and that should make it a lot easier for the men-at-arms to have an easier time in the melee that will begin soon. Nice response though, Melkos and Soul Leech gonna make things a bit tougher for the cav, and therein lies the issue with low model count horse units. They don't have a lot of mass, so they can get stuck and bogged down relatively easily. And so disengaging can be pretty tough, especially when units like halberds have a cavalry bane contact effect, so they can gimp horses for a few seconds, slowing them down and allowing other units to pile in when they try to disengage. Some nice archer fire crisscrossing their way into the battlefield. Looks like those marauders on the business end of that, and the Lost Sons getting yet another nice charge into their midst. Harmonic Conversion is going to send their stats into the stratosphere, and backed up by all that peasant archer fire, they're going to have no problem whatsoever mulching their way through Marauders. Melkos is going to go down, but Earthblood will counteract it with a heal. Earthblood no longer a just cast and forget spell though. It has a 50% slow attached to it and a -5 melee defense malice. So you don't really want to be casting it when you're in close quarters combat. Chaos Knight's kind of missing their charge there, but they'll get under control relatively soon. And it makes it so that Earthblood isn't quite a fire and forget kind of spell. It's kind of a nice thing to have. Heals are very strong in Total War Warhammer. Being able to actually think about when to heal rather than just do it all the time is pretty cool. As is Gilles Le Breton and the Lost Sons charging in bully over some more Marauders, and they're going to get terrified and run. But Sarthorael, bounding forward, needs to be a little bit careful because Alberic will be imbuing that bonus for large with that Braid of Bordeleaux +8 bonus to both the Green Knight and the Lost Sons. Going to be pretty strong. Questing Knights and Companions charging in. They're going to get right into the flank of those Chaos Warriors and send them to meet their maker. But Chaos is going to be overwhelming in the center. Big Bird is just stomping around. He's going to terrify everything, and his casting will prevent those Companions of Cunel from sticking around, because if they do, they're going to get sucked into an abyss and go meet up with some demons in the warp, which is not really where they want to be. So they will escape, but that means that they'll have to leave their crappy little peasants to die, and, well, that happens all the time in Bretonnia, so I guess not really a big deal. Anyway, but the Lost Sons fighting it out toe-to-toe with some Chaos Warriors' great weapons. That will be a tough fight for them. They do some damage to each other for sure. Green Knight might help turn it, but Sarthorael is there as well, and you cannot get blobbed up around him, because Final Transmutation can be vicious against cavalry and against single entities. One of the best counters for blobbing tactics with cavalry in the game. Gotta be careful, especially now that it will immobilize your cav in the final 5 seconds of the spell. Grail Knights sensing some action here in the back. Marauders left unsupported, and they will die and just get completely pancaked off the charge. So satisfying to watch. Ride of Rohirrim all over their butts, and Chaos making a nice HQ, a pocket around Sarthorael in the center, as a lot of the infantry for Bretonnia is already breaking. And Sarthorael bounding in, very displeased with the crappy little peasants that have inundated his army, and he's going to get in there and make sure they leave. And one way to do that is side them in half with your big old Tzeentch staff. And so that guy's going to die. Very unfortunate for him, and the rest of the army will start trying to escape. Now, the Green Knight and the Lost Sons are in good shape. Earthblood going down on all of them. That'll top off the Green Knight and Alberic. They Bordeleaux. Lost Son's going to have that minus 50% speed debuff while that Earthblood is active, though. Gotta be careful when you use it. That's a good time to use it, but when you're in melee and trying to disengage is where it can get very scary. And you can actually lose a unit if you use it at the wrong time. And I like that spells are being designed like that more and more in SFO. There's some kind of debuff associated with it so that you don't just use it unthinkingly, because healing is so strong. But the Green Knight and Alberic fighting back to back, surrounded by Chaos Knights, and that is just something straight out of your favorite action flick. That is so badass to watch, and they're going to carve their way through some of the most elite tier cavalry in the game. Green Knight with that AP and huge weapon strength, not going to be a problem to cut through them. And with a nice rear charge from the Grail Knights, that will be one Chaos Knight breaking, but they'll probably be able to come back unless they're chased off to the edge of the map. Sarthorael in there, some kind of Final Transmutation here could be incredibly punishing to the Bretonnian blob, but he's been using spells since the game started. Might not have the winds of magic for it quite yet. Green Knight and Alberic fighting it out. Chaos going to be very, very tough to bring down when they're like this, because halberds will be there. They'll be able to Cavalry Bane debuff all the horses that charge in. Bretonnian Knights when they try to escape. Chaos Knights can run them down, and all that AP and bonus for large is going to do a number on the elite tier cavalry of Bretonnia. Sarthorael still making his impact felt, knocking over some peasants and making sure they tear her out. And the Lost Sons of Bretonnia, well, they've come to the wrong neighborhood. Sarthorael going to see them off, and they are just completely surrounded by angry Chaos Warriors. And because they're not ethereal, even if they were, it wouldn't matter. Sarthorael has that magic damage, and so they are going to die, and they are going to run. I think only one will escape, but he's going to have slivers of HP left. Peasant Bowmen getting ridden down. Now for Wrath, now for Ruin, and the flames emanating from their mounts' hooves. Very angry Chaos Knights eating up those longbowmen in the back, and Chaos has completely cleared up the infantry in the center. Lost Sons are well and truly lost now, but some of the most elite troops from Bretonnia are still around. The Uniter is still in there, and Shebek, the Soul Killer. The Marauders will take one look at him and book it out of there. That's hilarious. They looked at him and just said, nope, I'm not dealing with that. Ran the other way, terrified. Grail Knight's got to charge in, and now they are shattered. So the cycle charging can begin, but remember that cycle charging is nowhere near as effective in SFO, especially when your opponents have halberds. Cavalry Bane will slow down their speed by 75% for a couple seconds, make disengaging way harder, ensures that they do take damage when they go in. Chaos Knight's gonna emulate the Grail Knight charge over on the other side, doing some nice cycle charging in the back, running over some peasants, and those longbowmen will die and die in droves. But the mace unit getting in there too, and with how low their HP is and the fact that the peasants actually have some AP there, Chaos Knights might look to disengage, but everything's routing because of that fear. Chaos Knights do cause fear in SFO. Soul Killer into the thick of it now. One slice, one model drops. Charging forward, that 100 charge bonus kicking in, and one more slice from the Ethereal Slash will take down a couple more. Very nice. Soul Killer living up to his name here, and Tzeentch feeling his wrath, but now charging into great weapons, and he won't take too much damage, but you know who could deal a lot of damage to him? Sarthorael, 660 weapon strength. Remember, the Green Knight has a very low HP pool, and he is ethereal, which means magic damage will cut right through all of his physical resist. That could be a duel, especially backed up by Soul Leech or by Final Transmutation, that could send the Green Knight to heaven pretty quick, so he's got to be careful. Chaos Knights routing a lot of these units. Nice frontal charge from the Grail Knights and Alberic backing him up, and now they're going to try to goon out Big Bird. Can he survive? Being microed very well at the moment, kind of moving in and out, weaving and bobbing his way like a boxer through all those Chaos Warriors and the Halberds too. More units coming up from behind, and the Grail Knights have been completely pinned in place. Nowhere to go. They're going to have to fight it out, surrounded by AP bonus force large units, and Sarthorael still striding amongst them. But a big duel about to go down between the Uniter, between the Everwatcher. Who can win? Whoever wins this duel probably going to win the game here. Balance bar definitely shifting in Bretonnia's favor. Straight out of Arthurian legend, you've got this medieval, like St. George and the Dragon story going on. Green Knight facing down, well, I'd say his fears, but he's not a normal human. Not at all. In fact, he terrifies anyone who gets close, and one slice, upward slice across his abdomen will drop the bird, and that will seal the deal. Chaos will follow in a rout shortly after. Green Knight, Alberic, and the remnants of the Grail Knights who are getting slaughtered by these halberds will fight it out, but soon they will get terrified and they will run. So that was the first SFO Grimhammer game I've played in a while. There are so many changes coming in each of these updates, and I really like this patch right now. I've not played too many battles, but some of the additions have just been so good, and really anything that makes you think more and strategize more, I'm usually going to be down for. And stuff like the Cavalry Bane, making it harder to cycle charge, and Earthblood, meaning that you can't just get stuck into melee and drop heals whenever you want. I mean, you can, but you'll be punished a little bit for it. I like that kind of stuff. I think some of those things are really good for not just competitive multiplayer, but campaign as well, to make you think. We're playing a strategy game. I'd like to be able to utilize strategy, and I think the introduction of some of these mechanics helps with that. A lot of the spell reworks have been really good, like Final Transmutation. That's a really, really cool way to implement the spell and make it seem more like how it should be in both the tabletop and in the lore. Sons of Bretonnia got 39 kills this game. They were not incredibly impressive, but they were fighting some pretty high-tier stuff. And I mismicroed them a few times. I charged them into a spot against the Chaos Knights where they really weren't going to thrive. Green Knight, though, on the other hand, even though he took a ton of damage to Sarthorael in the end of that battle, in their duel, I mean, he did so much work for me. He killed Chaos Knights, did a ton of damage to Sarthorael, won their duel. Alberic certainly helped out. Quest Knights didn't do great. The Grail Knights certainly did 121 kills at perfect vigor, roaring back and forth, zooming around like a Hot Wheels track, killing the game. Sarthorael, 84 kills himself. A nice pit of shades and some nice charges into the Peasant Bowmen. And Chaos Knights are no joke in SFO. 153 kills and a chevron. Really interesting battle, and I'll definitely be doing some more SFO Grimhammer stuff very soon. GG to Rusty Watermelon. Hope you guys enjoyed. Peace out.